Seahawks Today Mailbag Edition coming up in just a few moments from right now. But before we do, I want to hear from the subscribers of the channel. Here's your chance to stand up and show your faces. Comment me in the comment section if you are subscribed to Seahawks Today. It is the only way to be a part of the Mailbag Edition of Seahawks Today is by being a subscriber and going to the community tab and submitting your questions there. We ask for them each and every week, so if you're not subscribed already, go ahead and subscribe now so you can be a part of the next Seahawks Mailbag. Douglas Jones here with you. So glad to have you with us on this Mailbag Edition of Seahawks Today. You have questions, I have answers, so let's get to it. Our first question this week comes from Landon. Landon wants to know, what is the ceiling and what is the floor for the Seahawks? And, you know, this got me thinking about a great quote from Michael Jordan. He once said, "The ceiling is the roof." And I'll say this much. When I look at this Seahawks team, the ceiling, I don't see them winning any less than 5 games. I think that the schedule for them, the 11th toughest in the National Football League, they could get to at least 5. Now, the roof for this team, the ceiling for them, I would look at this being a situation where at best the Seahawks can be around 500. And since the schedule expanded to 17 games, you can't go 500 obviously unless there's a tie. So at best, I think it's 9-8 in that range for the Seahawks. If they can get to that point, then I think you're feeling really, really good, because that would have been even better than what they did last year as a 7-10 football team. But very good question there from Landon. Our next question comes from Anish. Anish wants to know, who do you think will be QB1 and RB1 for the Seahawks? Well, Anish, let's take this as the way the roster is right now, without bringing in any additional players and factoring in injuries and all that. Just as things stand right now, I think Drew Lock would be your starting quarterback if the season began today. Based on the way that Pete Carroll has talked about Drew Lock and all the praise that they've heaped on Drew Lock, I think that they're going to roll with Drew Lock as their guy. Geno Smith, although they did bring him back and that he knows the system, I think that they're aware that, look, Geno's been in this league 10 years now. He's going to be Geno. I mean, he's not getting any better than what he is. There is at least a little ray of hope anyway that there's some potential in Drew Lock, that maybe, just maybe, his best football could still be ahead of him at this point. So that's why I think they're going to go with Drew Lock if the roster stands as it is right now. The running back position, that one to me is fascinating as well. Kenneth Walker III, I think, will be your starting running back when it's all said and done. Rashad Penny, I think, is going to be the second back for this team, but both guys will be competing for those starting back roles very tight. Kenneth Walker is your future. He is going to be the guy that you're building the running back room for the next few years. Rashad Penny, I think, isn't quite as good as Kenneth Walker. Although Rashad Penny probably has a good chance to be your starter, I think eventually Kenneth Walker is your guy. You use a second-round pick on him. Running backs, you got to play them pretty early and avoid that second contract if you can. So I would roll with Kenneth Walker as the guy for the Seahawks as that number one running back. But very good question there. Next one comes from Jace. Jace wants to know, Seahawks, does Kenneth Walker go for 1,000 yards and 5 touchdowns? I think he will, especially if Penny is hurt. Well, very good question there, Jace. And Kenneth Walker, I think, is going to be a tremendous talent. I like everything I've seen from Kenneth Walker at the college level and what he's capable of at this level in the National Football League. I think he's going to be terrific. And, 1,000 yards and 5 touchdowns, a team that is going to be run heavy, I don't think that's out of the equation at all. I think that there's a very good chance that Kenneth Walker gets 1,000 yards, and if it's just 5 touchdowns, I'd be a little surprised. I think that number's higher. I think he can get at least 7 or 8. I'm expecting a big year from Kenneth Walker III, and if he starts from the beginning, if he beats out Rashad Penny before the season begins, he'll be a contender for Rookie of the Year as well. I don't think that's out of the question. Now, I want to hear from you guys. Our pinned comment on today's video. Will Kenneth Walker reach 1,000 rushing yards? Type O for over, type U for under, and let me know what you think if Kenneth Walker is going to reach that 1,000-yard mark. O for under, U for under. You're going to get an ad break. Take advantage of it. While the ad's playing, get your votes in and tell us what you think if Kenneth Walker will be over or under 1,000 rushing yards. Next question from Man in a Pit wants to know, is the only obstacle in the way for Geno to win 10 games psychologically? I've been looking at his past games and truly believe we could have beat Green Bay with him had Wilson not returned so early after the finger injury. Well, I've watched Geno Smith from the time he was at West Virginia, and the thing with Geno Smith is that he's just not accurate enough at this level. Psychologically, whatever you want to call it, the accuracy is just not there. Now, granted, last year he played decent in spot duty for Russell Wilson when he was filling in, but Geno Smith, he knows his role. I think that he is no more than a backup, and he is a good backup in this league, but he is not a starting caliber quarterback in the NFL. I just don't think so. I don't think he has the accuracy of what it takes to be a starting caliber quarterback, whether it's mental or whatever it may be. When it comes to that accuracy issue, it's just there, and I don't think it's going away for Geno Smith. If you give him too many games, I think you're setting yourself up for disaster. Geno Smith can't be your solution to go through the entire season, in all honesty. But good question there. Next question comes from our friend Fat Guy on Twitter, and he asked me this question on Twitter, but I only get, 280 characters on Twitter, and so I told him I would put it in the mailbag, even though we usually just take YouTube questions, because I needed a little more time to explain this in just a tweet. He asked me, for the right price, the Seahawks should pursue Mayfield. Also, the right price, should we pursue Garoppolo? But what, in your opinion, is the right price? No on Garoppolo. I would pass on Jimmy G. I think that we've seen enough of a sample size of Jimmy G to know that he's not getting any better than what he is. And he comes with a steep price tag. I'd pass on Jimmy. Baker Mayfield, through the few seasons we've seen him, and he's been injured and he's had to deal with, 3 or 4 different offensive systems now and such. I don't think we've seen the full potential of Baker Mayfield at this point in time. And that right price, I've told you on this show before, I would take Baker for a second or third round pick, personally. But for the Seahawks, the right price, something to keep in mind here is that they don't have a whole lot of cap space, and Baker Mayfield requires $18 million, and that's fully guaranteed. So for the Seahawks, it would have to be a situation of, okay, Cleveland, how much money can you take to fit in the cap situation to try to make that money work? So I think realistically, the Seahawks would be willing to give a 5th or a 6th round pick, and Cleveland is going to have to take part of that salary just to make it work for the cap situation. So that's realistically what I think the Seahawks are looking at. But who knows? Maybe the Browns will just release him and you get him for a much cheaper price anyway. But very good question there from one of my most loyal followers on Twitter who, if you're not following me on Twitter at Tyler Jones Live, you should be already. Nonetheless, let's move on. Another question. Cashy wants to know, with the Seahawks schedule out, what do you think the record will be? Well, Cashy, I'm glad you asked because we did an entire video on that right here on the channel. And that's where my answer is. It's exclusively on that video. So please, go watch that video if you have not already. Tell your friends and whoever to watch that video as well as the rest of the videos on Seahawks Today as we are breaking down this team each and every day. The only channel on the internet that's talking Seahawks each and every day, youtube.com/SeahawksTV. And if you want to be a part of these mailbags, like what you're seeing right now, you got to be a subscriber. So subscribe now. Check out the community tab during the week. Get your questions in. Use that hashtag Seahawks in the comments, and you can be a part of this next mailbag. YouTube.com/SeahawksTV. And check out that video to see what my prediction is for 2022. Next question is on Jordyn Brooks from Football 253. Do you think Jordyn Brooks is going to be a top 5 linebacker this year now that Bobby Wagner is gone? He had a good season last year. I don't know if he'll be top 5. I would lean towards no on that, but I do think he's going to have a big year. Last year, 144 tackles, 1 sack, 10 tackles for loss, and a fumble recovery. I expect those numbers to go up, that Jordyn Brooks is going to have a much bigger role in this Seahawks defense in 2022. He's going to be fun to watch and one of the leaders of this defense, quite frankly, in my opinion, when I look at this group in 2022. His Madden rating last year was an 80. Now, I want to hear from you guys. How would you rate Jordyn Brooks? I think he's better than an 80. I want to go into the 90s, but I think you could see, us nerds that grew up playing Madden, we always tracked when a guy's numbers went up throughout the year, or we would go in and manually change the numbers. I think with Jordyn Brooks, he's not going to be that 80. He's going to be the one that maybe you change the numbers and say he's better than what the so-called experts think of him. Let me know in the comments. How would you rate Jordyn Brooks on Madden if you had to scale 1 to 99? I know my Madden. They don't play with hundreds in Madden. That's for 2K and other games like that. Type 1 through 99 how you would scale Jordyn Brooks' Madden rating style in the comments section. A couple more questions. This one comes from Batman Fan. What is the percentage chance the Seahawks sign James Bradberry? I don't think it's very high. I like James Bradberry, very talented player, Pro Bowler back in 2020. The Giants tried to trade him, but he was ultimately released last Monday after a career-high in interceptions for this past season, although he gave up more touchdowns than he has ever given up in his career for a single season. Bradberry, a very good player, but like we talked about with Mayfield, that asking price is going to be too high. I think Bradberry is going to get a nice payday from somebody else not named the Seahawks. If you had to put a number on it, I'd give it about maybe a 5% chance that happens. I see it as an unlikely scenario. I think Bradberry would be nice for the Seahawks. He would be a good addition, but I don't see them spending money they don't have for James Bradberry, quite frankly, as of right now. Final question comes from 999 discussion. Will Coby Bryant or Tariq Woolen be the starting cornerbacks? In my opinion, I think that would be smart to mold them into the corner the Hawks want. I think Coby Bryant has a good chance to potentially start as a nickel corner, and that could be by game one. I think at least halfway through the season, Coby Bryant is going to be one of your top 3 corners in the Seahawks defense. Tariq Woolen, he's going to be more of a project. He's going to take some more time. He could work his way up there, but I don't see him as a starting cornerback in 2022 anyway. But a very good question from 999 discussion here on the Seahawks mailbag. We appreciate you joining us. Subscribe to the channel so you can be a part of our next mailbag, youtube.com/SeahawksTV.